Well, no, actually, in this particular case with this particular story, there was no warning. There was nothing, and I've went over this, 1,000 times, a million times in my own head, and there was no warning leading up to it because what had happened is I had a very great thing going. I had a great job. I was making good money. I had just bought a great house. Just everything was going great, and I was running my own magazine, and just life was good. And then at 36 years old, my ex-wife had a late onset of schizophrenia, and bam, out of nowhere, life just, from, one day life was great. The next day, different, and everything changed, and everything spiraled out of control after that day. And it was literally like day and night, just bam, that fast of a change. And because people, you can't see that kind of thing coming. So, there was no warning signs leading up to it, but it stuck me for a long time. I spent 5 years stuck in that hole, of nothing but negativity and despair and worry and fear and everything all around. Yeah.
Wow,
So,
five
and then,
years.
and then losing everything, losing my business, losing the excellent career I had, and losing the house, losing vehicles, getting down to nothing, living in in not so nice places to live, and those kinds of things, just to be able to, to try to figure it all out and how to, yeah, it was a mess, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds real challenging. And I think one of the things that's interesting about what you said is that there was no warning. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Whether
Right,
there was or wasn't. In your case, there wasn't. But whether there was or wasn't, a lot of people feel that way. There's people watching this video who might even feel that way, that they're stuck right now and that there was no warning. So one of the good things about working with a coach that understands that is that you can understand the feelings of how despair and how desperate it feels, and how, like, why wasn't there any warning? I mean, that would be one
right.
question I have. Did you spend a
And
lot of time during that time trying to figure out and dwelling on the fact of what you could have seen and that sort of thing? Did that happen a lot during that time?
oh, absolutely. I spent a lot of time looking back to see if there was something I could see. And I would say that the initial event came without warning. But over the course of the next 5 years, there were lots of warning signs that I could have seen, that maybe I did see and ignored. Maybe some of them I did follow and take. So there was lots of, there's a lot of dynamics that go on in something like that, and so yeah, there were definite warning signs all throughout the whole thing that sometimes make a person think shoulda, coulda, woulda, what if and but how, and those are the things that keep you held down in there. Those are the things that don't allow you to be free. And when you're living in that type of negativity, it's sometimes hard to see past, what your next action is going to be for just yourself, and what your next thought going to be, not to mention everything else and all the other dynamics and how it's affecting everything, the feelings. And yeah, yeah,
So
you're stuck. It's quicksand. It's quicksand.
yeah, and you're so right. And one thing you said that I think is extremely interesting is, and I'll translate, it isn't worth it.
Right.
In other words, trying to figure out why it happened, at some point it becomes not worth it. I mean, there are
That's
times when
right.
you need to figure out why things happen because you don't want them to happen in the future. But there comes a point, would you agree that there comes a point where you have to say, look, I've thought about this enough about why it happens. I've learned all I can with the way I am right now about why this happened. I've got to move on and make it better. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's yeah, it's accurate. Absolutely. Yeah, there comes a point where why doesn't even really matter, because you're there, and you can either go down in the quicksand or you can pull yourself out of it. And those are your only two choices. You either will pull yourself out of it or you won't. And you already know life is going to suck if you don't pull yourself out of it. So, that the only other option is the better option. So you have to do that.
So during that time, what was the I'll say what do you feel your deepest and darkest time and the most mentally challenging, the worst piece, like that really I'll call it the rock bottom moment. I mean, what do when was that? What was that? What was that kind of, pretty much that moment there in time that, you kind of, you hit rock bottom, so to speak, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, well, it come a time whenever she proved to be dangerous for the rest of us to be in physical presence for me and my children, and that was when everything hit rock bottom. That was when, after 5 years of trying to care for her in that situation, that's when I realized that I was actually putting other people's lives in jeopardy, my own, my children's, and it had to stop. It had to stop. And
so what you're really saying is it got really bad, and it got to a point. It got to that point of no return. It got to where it was becoming dangerous to you and to everybody else, and you knew you had to make a change.
Absolutely.
So that means you can help people who have gotten to that point. But let me ask you a question before we go into the
Sure.
new beginning and the aftermath. If you had to do it all over again, and if you could stop before it got that bad, would you have stopped it before it got that bad and tried to do things differently to make it better sooner, knowing what you know now?
I would like to say that I would, yeah. At the time, you're just running on autopilot then, during that time, and your thought patterns are just caught in this cycle of, and you just can't see anything. You can't see past your own hand in front of your face, and so I would like to think if I had been able to maintain the awareness then. I had it before and I lost it then, and I've had to regain it since, and the if I could have maintained my awareness through all of that rather than giving in to the negativity and everything, I'd like to think absolutely I would have done things different and done things sooner.
And therein lies the key. So if right now, if you're watching this video and you're on autopilot, you need to continue listening to what we've got to say during the rest of Joe's hero's journey and during the Getting Unstuck, because it'll help you to keep from having to go through what Joe did and get all the way down to that black moment. And that's really one of, from talking with Joe offline, that's one of his goals, is to help people to not have to get to that deep, dark, black moment.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.